Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GAN's processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
Right, no,
Yeah,
you remember, John?
Yeah, we had a fire here at the airfield about a year ago, and he took along the CO2 and they put out the fire with that.
Yeah.
And we know that the Keshe Foundation is developing and testing systems right now, as Mr. Keshe had informed us recently, that they could put one on one side of the forest fire and one on the other side of the forest fire and allow it to rain. So I think every government will come into possession, not that we're going to put out every fire. Some of these things have to be released, but when it's threatening life or it's threatening property, perhaps those systems will be deployed. And so I know there's so many firemen right now working in the United States trying to put out these massive, massive fires. I don't know where the line will be drawn with when you intervene and when you don't, but I'm sure there'll be some sort of standard set up.
Matt, it's
Yes.
important. It's important. Take care with the no interview. I'm sorry, no interview, no vows or no change. Only talk with the CO2 or every first. Take. I'm sorry, Santiago or John.
Can I come in, please?
Yes, thank you so much. Welcome, Mr. Keshe.
Sorry about that. Keshe Foundation at this moment, with the supervision of one of the leading nations in the world, is developing and testing creation of weather and change of the weather. At the moment, we have 3 trials running in 2 land position and 1 in the ocean position. And the trials are ongoing as we speak today. And this is a technology which belongs and is within the Keshe Foundation. And in a short come, next maybe 3 to 6 months, will be made available to national governments in emergency cases. We are the holder and owner of the technology, and we can create at this moment, we are diverting one of the hurricanes, the typhoons, and 2 creation of 2 rain, deliberately creating rain in specific positions, which is predetermined 7 days before. This technology is totally belongs to the Keshe Foundation International. And a team of scientists are working on it in conjunction with the national governments. Soon we can respond to situations like this, like in California with the fires and other places. But the first test was carried out about 3 weeks ago, and certain amount of rain was created deliberately pre-arranged point and destination. And we are working on it. A lot of people say you can use CO2 and other things, but the new technology is enhancing the plasma of the planet Earth. And it can be done. And we tested originally in China about 3 years ago in 6 occasions. And now a system actually has been developed for it. It's not a guesswork, it's very precise. And I had to look at the latest weather development, diverting a, what do you call it, typhoon from an island about 4 days ago. And it's on course. So these things very soon will be handled and transferred to national governments in case of emergencies.
Would you consider the running out of water in reservoirs in some of these great big lakes in California, Arizona, different places?
This will be part of the negotiation deal with the American government of 5+1 as part of the technologies delivered.
And they could refill.
You can create rain by substantial amounts, yeah.
I know China in their heavy rain recently, they experienced in some areas 22 inches in one day, I think it was. Almost 2 feet of
Yes,
water.
but now this technology is under what we call test. It's not developed, and now it's getting tested. I can even show you some of the pictures how hurricane has been, what do you call it, headed on.
I believe without seeing, but it would be
Pardon?
nice to see as well.
Yeah, but this is an ongoing research, and now there's a technology for it. It's literally a technology. It's not just guesswork or whatever. We have 3 trials. One has been partially successful in creating large amount of rain. One is blocking, and the third one is in the process. We can preset 7 to 14 days the condition.
Beyond the imagination, yes.
It's not imagination, it's understanding the physics of it. We've done it in South China Sea 6 times. Now there is a technology, it belongs to Keshe Foundation. It's a research within the Keshe Foundation.
Very welcomed and very valuable, I would assume.
We have to wait and see till we think it needs a fine tuning for next 6 to 12 months. And then we'll bring it as part of the Keshe Foundation, and is what we call, will be used by one of the world leading nations who's operating, collaborating with us in the moment.
So as far as the weather on this planet, you said it was always changing anyway. Are we going to be trying to bring it back to where we remember it used to be? Are we going to?
We can't be, we cannot go back. It's just that handling it as it comes and creating when it's needed. Like the hurricane you had or in US last week, past 2 weeks. These things have to go on, we can't stop. But we can take the edges of the peripheries damaging to cities and that kind of thing. because I was looking at the control of it 2 days ago, 3 days ago. It's a project we set up about a month ago, 2 months ago, and is ongoing, and it can be done. We can interact with typhoons and decide it which way and how.
And I know you talked about breaking the CH bond in plastic would create some water or a lot of water, and we didn't want to actually do that because it would raise the shorelines around the world. But if you were to explain, if we had 1 kilo of plastic, how much water would 1 kilo of plastic turn into? Or could it turn into?
You don't turn it into water, you create a condition that leads to conversion. You convert, it's a combination of a lot of work of converting the CO2 and then natural base interaction, converting into drinking water. The Americans and the Russians already used this technique in space labs. Conversion of what the astronauts breathe to convert it into air and water. But that's a chemical conversion, it's not plasmatic conversion. When one of the astronauts stop breathing, the ratio of the production goes low. Or when they don't have enough number of astronauts or cosmonauts in the space lab, they run crisis. But the systems are there for conversion of it. Now you can do it plasmatically, which is easy.
Mr. Keshe, John here. I had a similar experience as we had in Dominica. On the last 5th of May, a lightning went for my tower, which is 57 meters tall. And this tower, I have it 2 meters away from the tank where I produce the plasma water. And about 80 meters above the ground, the lightning exploded into light, and it illuminated 1,000 meters all the way around, but it never hit the tower. I was about 10 meters away, and the noise of the lightning just shook me. But I had 3 persons that saw the lightning going for my tower, and then nothing hit the tower. I went up to the top, and there was not a single mark of a lightning there on the tower. And it would have burnt all my equipment here, but it didn't.
The energy goes from up down, not down up. And if you have released the energy to a weaker point, you have already consumed all the energy you had. When it's been transferred to the light bulb or whatever, the lightning, and cannot come back to burn. In a way, if you had a gas energy inside the system, you emptied it. We noticed this in one experiment, not one, number of experiments 2, 3 years ago. You never get hit. Energy always goes away from you before expanding and opening. And it's a silver courage. It's not a normal light as a light, it's a silverish color light. The normal lightning is a bright white light, we usually see that kind of color. But the time we observed is a silver in color, the explosion or the light you see.
I'll have to ask the persons that saw this, because I was looking the other way when it happened. And I'll
It
ask
is
for
not
these
a
details.
bright white color. It's a very bright silverish. It's got a shade of silver in it. Because we discussed this color, it's like, why does it have this color in it? Our system was set up on the roof.
Another question I think is, what is the United States going to do with empty hospitals? You have no doctors or people assistants there. They're all quitting because they don't want the vax.
Good luck to them. Maybe they have come to their senses at last.
Yeah, the CS, common sense.
There are a number of reports coming out of China with vaccination, which people do not go into epileptic shock, but they just freeze. And it's expanding numbers in China because of the vaccination. People, if they're standing up, they just freeze in the point they are. If they're getting on a bike, the videos we see, they just freeze. And I think it's part of the effect of the injections. And it's a large number of them.
I was in the pizza shop the other day and I was talking to one of the workers and we were talking and he said the people just seem different now. When they come in, they're like not with it, many of them. And he's worked there for a while. And he said, I don't understand what's going on. The people just seem like out of touch.
Zombies. That was the whole plan, to make a nation of zombies.
May I add that it's been on the CDC site since 2007 that I know of, the zombie awareness preparation, and whether a game or not, it's exactly what happened to one of my stepsons when he was, he had one of the vaxes, and that was back in 2007. So I do believe that I hear that there's a graphene oxide. Do you know anything about that?
Nope.
Yeah, they're getting ready for zombie apocalypse. CDC, they have that preparedness coming up.
So you're saying people are just freezing in position, whether they're riding a bicycle or they're walking, or are they sitting down and they lock up?
Yep. We have a number of videos of it in the past couple of days. Has been sent to us. I don't have access on my other phones. I cannot transfer through. People just freeze in shops and buses and street, train stations, all sorts. Never been seen. Chinese are posting it all over their internet. There's not a hidden knowledge. Chinese, the minute it happens now, they immediately live go on the internet and post it.
So if you were on the highway with your car, the same thing could happen?
Yes, has no time and dimension.
Mm.
There is one of the videos, the guy standing in the supermarket shopping, and then he gets it and just go whack, flat out.
This is crazy. Maybe they're getting activated.
Nobody knows what it is at the moment. It's a dilemma for them. I have a number of these videos sent to me, but I can't transfer it because it's one of our phones, which we don't get out.
That's unbelievable what you just told us. I mean, it's believable, but
Try to see if I can transfer one of them somewhere that you can see. Let's see. I cannot play it. I cannot play video on iPhones, unfortunately. Let me see if I can. You can see it's a number of them. I cannot receive. It's a too big a package to receive. It doesn't download into
no problem.
inbox.
I think we got the picture.
It's impossible to do.
Good afternoon, Mr. Keshe. One of the most popular shows in North America is The Walking Dead. I think we got the idea.
For the other one, is there a show, Zombie Nation? Oh, gosh.
Just wait 1 second. I'm trying to see. There is a way to do it. You carry on, I'll see how I can get it, and I'll come back to you.
I know Lissy has put a couple questions in here. My two questions: what happens to the soul of the stones when they are extracted from the earth? And if they are used without molding, without altering, we are not abusing them. What if we do with the plants or the animals that we eat? I'm not sure I understand that. Alex?
Yeah, I've seen that question. It's a great question.
Okay.
So the stone doesn't have an ability to travel. It has physicality, but it doesn't have legs to walk. So we become the surrogates for that. And then when you look on the, say you're on the beach and you see all these stones, which stone do you pick up? Or how do you make that decision? And is that decision exclusively yours? So now we're finding that it seems like it's your decision because you're the guy who's physically activating, but you know, I guess it's not like you know, picking out the beauty queen at the, you know, Miss Universe contest. That's kind of in the eyes of the beholder, but You know, when you're looking at all these stones on the beach, you can't pick them all up, so you decide which one to pick up. And if you pick it up and take it somewhere, is that exclusively your intention? Or is that in combination with the stone's intention? So it was kind of like the same question you asked before. If I give you an idea and you don't take that idea, then that idea is a preemptive. But if you grab that idea, then it's a maggrav. And so when you pick up that stone, you're actually making a maggrav connection with that stone. The interesting aspect, of course, is that now it's applying a sentient quality to the stone, which we as humans are you know, that's kind of a difficult thing for the average person to understand. Now, as far as the other is concerned, that is the big question, because now that we understand that the vertical people have souls, so you know, whether you're a meat eater or a vegetarian, you know, you're still doing, shall we say, the so-called killing of souls, but there is a combination again. There is a connection between your soul and the soul of the vertical people. It brings up a question that we've been discussing many times over, and that has to do the difference between the meat eater and the vegetarian. You understand, cows are vegetarian, and so if we eat the meat of a cow, then isn't the cow our vegetarian surrogate? So the whole notion of whether, you know, we're vegetarian or meat eaters is a totally ridiculous concept. But you know, what about the soul of the cow connecting with the soul of the grass? You know what I'm saying? So we can ask these questions all over the place. So now what we're finding is even plants and animals can get viruses or get hurt or get conditions, you know, fungi and all sorts of maladies. And so the restoration of the emotional and physical vitality of the humanity, it must extend to the animal and vegetable kingdom, or not the kingdom, but the domain. And is that possible? And what responsibility do we have? How much, you know, can you take into account? And so that becomes the definition of how big is large. So the domain of the cattle, if we go to a amino acid feeding, plasma feeding system, the domain of the cattle has to sort itself out, as does the domain of the plant kingdom. And then we know that with the plasma science, that when a crop gets infested, say with a bacteria, or gets shall we say, attacked by a swarm of locusts, and then you find that the reason the locusts leave is because they've eaten all the protein of the plants. But with plasma science, we can create a field to make it desirable for the locusts to leave, and so thereby saving the crop. Then look at another case. We have a bountiful crop in one of the Chinese experiments, and there was a 300% crop yield, but the farmers were complaining about the birds eating the proceeds of the crop, which, you know, not as serious problem as locusts, but, you know, certainly they're enjoying themselves with the harvest. They're doing their own harvest. And so the farmers were complaining, even though the fact that they were already receiving the benefit of a 3 times crop yield, in spite of the feeding of the birds. So we had an accomplishment where the growth of the crop was exceeded beyond expectations. The sharing with the birds, and the birds were doing other things. But, you know, if we come to a point where we stop consuming the way we've been brought up, and it becomes a question of how long that's going to take, that's not going to be cold turkey. It's going to take a period of time, so that our adjustment has to be a cow's adjustment, has to be a plant's adjustment, has to be a bird's adjustment. It, in fact, has to be a worm's adjustment. So this adjustment has to go all the way down the line. So when we're talking about restoring emotional and physical harmony on this planet, then that becomes a universal goal and determination. And everything that we're talking about are intermediate steps. And as our skill develops, and as our field strength increases, and as our field strength improves in terms of quality, we will find that peace and harmony will easily manifest on this planet. So how extreme will be this change? And I think we have no choice, because what we've seen in the last 20 months, ask yourself, how extreme is the effect of this lockdown? How many businesses have gone bankrupt? How many hundreds of thousands of people are unemployed, and they not only lost their job, but they can't even go back to that job because that job doesn't exist. How much hardship has it been? In today's reporting, we've had 6 deaths related to the pandemic. But in Canada, 200 people a day die from cancer. And that's not an emergency.
Alex, Mr. Keshe has sent you a message. Alex, please check your Telegram, please, for video. Would you be able to do that?
Thank you very much.
In the meantime,
over to you, Mark.
yes, in the meantime, I wanted to bring up the conference. There's 2 conferences coming up. One is Beyond Books, and apparently it's in Athens, Greece. It's a virtual conference, and it says, braving the pandemic through research, braving the pandemic through research productivity. This is on September 24th to 26th, 2021. Mr. Keshe will be the plenary speaker, it says. This would be in 12 days, and this would be on a Friday, Saturday. Friday, I think, is the 24th. Saturday will be the 25th, and Sunday will be the 26th. So I would assume we can all participate in this. And just to make that announcement, of course, the conference in Austria is scheduled for the 2nd and 3rd of October, which reservations are sort of requested, or at least let the Keshe Foundation know that you will be attending. Otherwise, you might be disappointed when you arrive, Mr. Keshe said. Another question in the chat while we're waiting for Alex was from Adrian. Mr. Keshe, the Romanian team is here and waiting, as you promised, to show us the spaceship and build it in 2 years, are your words from the conference. So you still want something to get into, Adrian. I think it's, as Mr. Keshe said a while ago, I thought he had canceled the spaceship project. It is rather, I think it's rather dangerous, although flying with the soul, as we know, there are energy packages that can even affect your soul. But maybe if you get small enough and fast enough, they can't touch you. But I was thinking the spaceship is a lot more dangerous. Even we see some of these reports on people from the universal community having to actually work on their ships. I know we've heard this in White Sands and other places where from time to time they actually have to physically work on the craft. to get it revved up again. Whether these are disinformation stories or not, I don't know. But I mean, if you want to travel that way, I think it's going to happen. And I think this is what the enhanced, shall we call, nuclear plasma technology will be used for. I think I'm going to stay till I learn to fly with the soul and not really get into the craft, but that's just my choice. Everyone has their own choice of how they want to proceed. Okay, I think Alex has got something ready for us here. Adrian, did you want to add anything to that? I don't know if he said he would announce anything in this platform, but maybe he'll be working directly with your team. Okay, we're seeing your screen, Alex, very well.
Are you hearing the audio?
No audio. Did you share sound?
No, I didn't.
You need, yeah, share
No, it's
video.
okay.
There's no sound, okay.
This is shocking.
As you see, the gentleman standing in the middle, they just freeze on the spot. They don't fall, you say it's a epileptic attack. They just freeze in their position.
What about the man touching him?
Nothing, there's no, that's a police officer.
No, I know, but is there a field force that's affecting the officer?
No, apparently there are people who are helping them. We have videos of apparently one is already dead. But that's all it is.
This guy doesn't look to be more than 20 years old.
And he looks rather healthy to me.
Yeah, there's many of them. I can send you 10 of these videos.
What are they doing?
And this is what is shocking, what is coming out with the vaccination.
Does this happen just after the vaccine or after a while?
There is no data. We have asked from Chinese officials to explain to us what is there, what is the background, but nothing at the moment. There's hundreds of them on Chinese internet if you know where to look for.
Another thing that has been detected is a lot of young kids, 12 to 17, who were given the vax there in the States, they're having heart enlargement. And some of the vaccines, they've been detected with mal de Chagas, which it does that, and you can't get rid of it. It's an ailment you get here in the zone, and you're bitten by a bug, and that it gives you this mal de Chagas, and you have it for life. Your heart gets dilated, enlarges, and there's no cure for it.
You did indicate to us a while back, Mr. Keshe, that there are some people in the leadership of the Chinese government that would like to see a population reduction of 200 to 400 million people in their country. I don't know if that still stands.
Wouldn't it be easier to use lead?
Didn't they already go through a 20 million catastrophe?
He
They're
doesn't
also
seem to be,
exporting people all over the world, aren't they?
yeah, he doesn't seem to be moving a muscle, just staring straight forward.
The funny thing is he doesn't topple over either.
Mr. Keshe said this
And
is
some
not,
of them do.
not the only example he's in possession of.
There is a number of them.
So is he breathing?
Yes, normal. You don't have the voice recording. It's let me.
No, but how can you freeze the muscles and still breathe?
This is what is neurological. This is what is crazy about this thing.
Incomprehensible.
Oh, I get it. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
I thought they were going with your gift in a way, but just keeping it to themselves, but they're having the same problem with bribes or other things. Is that what's happening here?
The difference also is you've got a conscious muscle movement and an unconscious muscle movement.
Sure. It's the parasympathetic network and the autonomous network, or the sympathetic network. Sorry, the autonomous sympathetic network controls everything. So
I
it's,
have sent you a second one, Alex.
okay, thank you. I'll download it.
Did this gentleman snap out of it? Was this only momentary, or did they have to put him on the stretcher and remove him? If you know. Either way, it doesn't look or sound great at all.
In Australia, there are a growing number of medical people and officials, police officers, and so on, starting legal campaigns to not be vaccinated under the Constitution, and so on and so on. And the other day, there was a Supreme Court hearing in the state of New South Wales, and 50,000 plus people joined the judicial hearing via the internet, just to observe, what they're going to do, how they're going to proceed. So there is this knowledge, whether it's intuitive or just the fact that it interferes with human rights, etc. People are rebelling, or at least taking legal action to prevent the forced vaccination. Mandatory, they call it, mandatory vaccinations. And looking at these pictures, which are absolutely horrifying, really, you can see, why there is this growing resistance whether it's as severe as this or not. But there are, you know, in Australia, there's been 100,000 or so adverse reactions in just the months from, say, about November, December last year through to June this year on the Therapeutic Goods Administration database. And they're clothing it all in the legal language, so it's not related necessarily to vaccines, but it's pretty obvious if you go back in time, there weren't any, hardly any adverse event reports, but suddenly there are, as I said, 100,000 in a few months. So, this is really shocking.
It almost looks like the gentleman that was processed through the unit. You can see this fella trying to bend his left knee, but it's like when the fellow was processed through the universal unit, he started to shuffle a little bit. But this guy is trying to get it going, but he can't get it going. Something's blocking his pathway, his energy pathway.
We watch all this in the movies. Now it's coming real.
That's sometimes how they prepare us for things.
I didn't think we were supposed to be talking about this stuff though, originally.
Somebody has to.
The process is most of us, our children, our grandchildren, and 100% of great-grandchildren will face with these kind of field effects in the space, or once we start traveling out, we'll bring it back to this space. Some viruses outside this planet could be added bonus, but your great-grandchild thinks I'll bring a souvenir for a grandpa and brings it something from another point of the universe and arrives here and gives you such an effect. Or to your animal in the house or to the next door neighbor. Do we have a comprehensive system to handle this? Do we have a comprehensive system to be able to overcome this? This is a very simple child play.
Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.